So I read some creepy stories from people serving in the army in their respective countries yesterday, and decided to share my story. Short info: I served in the Norwegian army. In Norway we have a mandatory year of service if our psychological and physical health is good. I went as north as Norway goes, hoping to get to guard the Norwegian-Russian border as a border Jaeger. This is one of the more prioritized sections of the Norwegian army. So there is also a selection of who gets to go to the border doing operative missions. Long story short, after 6 months I was put in a group of 4 men, regular patrol with medic, patrol leader, next in command and a comm man. We left the big garrison, and went to smaller stations with different areas of responsibility along the border. 19 years. Me and my crew, 4 people, off to a new mission. We are specialized in observation, not being seen behind enemy lines. Mike drives us out about 3 km where the road ends. Put on our gear, start walking along a small gravel road which leads to the observation tower. Winter is coming. JPG. It's getting colder, and darker each day, no problem though, as we have trained in the worst weather this part of our country has to offer. Greater than 5 hours later we reach the destination. 25-meter high tower with a small cabin at the bottom. We'll stay here for the next 22 days, no phones. We've been here before, it's our usual base while out on missions. Our job is basically just to watch over the Norwegian-Russian border 24/7 and walk patrols along the borderline. On arrival we talk some shit with the guys who guarded the base before we came, information about what they had experienced, just some administration BS, then they leave. One of the guys who left talked about seeing some big dark figure moving through the woods at one of his shifts. Probably a moose or a bear, no worries. Now, the base described in the green text is located very remote. There is no buildings nor people for several kilometers around. Should I count?
This is not B. Of fucking course continue.
After carrying all our gear, weapons, and food inside the cabin, we start cleaning our gear as it's full of snow. The medic is up in the tower, as it needs to be at least one person up there at all times, as I said, 24/7. Me and my patrol leader, Olav, started preparing dinner while our comm guy, Peter, was doing an inspection of the base. Making sure the patrol who left upon our arrival had cleaned everything properly. Now, the dark is coming, and without any light sources other than a red LED lamp on top of the tower, it's dark outside our base. The temperature outside is rapidly falling to about -24°C. I go to our storage room, get a bag of firewood and light up the fireplace. After dinner is done, me, Peter and Olav sit down in the living room, turn on the television, and start to eat potatoes, some greens and elk meat I believe it was. After about 20 minutes, Roy, the medic, calls down. We have a phone which connects the one floor to the tower, so that we can communicate more efficiently. I pick up the phone, and he informs me about having seen something lurking through the woods about 1 km out from our position, on the Russian side of the border. The radar also picked up movement in that direction. I tell him to just keep his eyes up, and use the thermal binoculars if he feels the need to. Roy didn't sound scared or anything, just wanted to inform us about it, in case we needed to get up there and assist him, or get out and find the suspect potentially crossing the border illegally. The time is around 8:30 p.m., and my shift starts at 9:00 p.m. Go take a shower, make myself a mug of coffee, and watch TV for 5 more minutes before going up to the tower room. After 1 million steps I'm there, open the hatch and climb the last ladder into the op room. Roy is doing good, nothing to report except that shit he saw in the woods, which he already informed about earlier. Roy says,
"Good watch,"
and leaves, a fucking gay tradition, but it's nice. Sit down, pour myself a cup of coffee and relax. So we have a lot of equipment in the tower, much of it is actually confidential so I can't share too much about it. But we have a computer, with the internet only for males and a chatting program which is connected to other bases along the border. I start talking to a friend of mine on the chatting program. We talk about your regular run-of-the-mill shit, nothing special just to make time go by. Just to make it clear, it's pitch black outside, and the only light is the stars, the moon, and the aurora borealis, which is fucking beautiful BTW. Sitting there, cursing to myself, why the fuck do we need to sit here all night, you don't even see shit when it's nighttime. Greater than 1 hour goes by, then 2, only 1 hour left now and Pete will take over. Boom, lights out. WTF.jpg. I know I said we don't have any light sources outside, but inside we do, not that we keep them on at night, but all the electronic devices inside the tower went black. Never experienced a power surge out here ever, and as far as I know, no one else did either. Panicking, knowing I can't leave the fucking tower, and can't get a hold of the guys downstairs as the phone is dead as well. Contemplating what to do for maybe 5 minutes, and the power turns on again. Thank you Jesus. Gif. Pic related, it's taken in Kirk NS, which is where all of this took place. So this is about the time where our troubles began. Peter comes up, talks some smack, explain the power surge shit to him.
Hope it doesn't happen to me, huh, what will I do if the computers are down?
Good watch go downstairs. Reach the living room, no one there as the time is now 12:10 am, Roy and Olav probably went to bed. Go to the fridge, get myself some ham and cheese and make a late night snack before hitting the bunk beds. Watch some more TV, only source of entertainment up there. Clean my plate of, and head to our bedroom. The bedroom is small, with 4 beds, 1 for each patrol member. There is also a phone inside the bedroom, which works as an alarm clock of sorts, if the guy who has to take over the shift doesn't wake up. The guy in the tower can call down and wake up him or anyone who can then wake him up. The phone can also be used to call for assistance if needed. I take off my clothes, set my alarm on my watch, and close my eyes listening to my 2 patrol members snoring like a woodwork. I kid you not though, just as I found a good sleeping position, the phone calls. In my head I think, fuck, have the officers decided to do an exercise in the middle of the night, and just as I'm about to go to sleep as well, fuck me. But it was Peter, his voice was actually shaking, so I took things a bit more serious.
Dude, you need to wake up the rest of the guys.
Peter, tell me what's going on, is there some Syrian refugee trying to cross, what's up?
Just wake them the fuck up Anon, and send them all up here.
Hangs up. I, also affected by Peter's voice, feel the adrenaline rushing through my veins. I wake up the guys, tell them this is no fucking joke, and that Peter is panicking up into the tower. They half asleep put on their clothes as efficiently as possible, and we all run as fast as we can up the steps to the tower. Upon reaching the op room, we meet Peter, who by all means do not look like himself, even if it's dark inside the room, the moonlight shines through the windows and hit his paper pale face. Olav, which is our leader, but more just a friend with that title, asks him what the fuck is going on, clearly affected by sleep deprivation.
I saw something cross the border, it was fucking huge I tell you, not a bear, not a moose, no animal at all, and bigger than a human.
Olav kinda looks at him with disbelief, as he says.
You sure? I mean, it's 0:30 AM, isn't it just the coffee and lack of sleep playing games with you?
No, I swear to God it's something down there. I tried to find it with the thermal binoculars, but couldn't spot it. 2 of you need to go down there.
We all look at each other. During situations like these, two people go out, and two stay in the tower, and to prevent an all-out crisis along the border because of something that we most likely thought was an animal. We didn't call in the information to our main station.
Okay, Anon and Roy, you go out though these coordinates along the borderline and look for traces. Me and Peter will stay in the tower trying to look for what Pete saw. Keep your comms on at all time.
Yes, Cuxer.Jiv. We go down, get our gear on, load our rifles, turn off comms and GPSs, and walk out. It's a steep hill that leads down to a big pool of water on the south side of the base, and we were to walk toward that water along the borderline. It's fucking cold outside, but not too windy, very silent. We walk, no info from the tower pair, and no signs of any crossing anywhere. After about 30 minutes we reach the coordinates given to us, turn on our flashlights and start looking around. What the actual fuck? WEBM. Huge prints in the snow, like fucking gigantic holes. No signs of fingers, claws or a print, just holes, like someone shoved a clenched fist in the size of a big log straight down into the snow. The footprints, or whatever the fuck they were clustered together in a relatively big area of maybe 2x3 meters. But the range between each cluster was a whole different story, estimated to be maybe 2.5 to 3 meters between each cluster. Fuck. Now the adrenaline started pumping for real. Me and Roy just looked at each other in disbelief, and Roy said, which I remember very clearly,
"What in the actual fuck could have made these prints?"
The comm goes of, both me and Roy jumps like a motherfucker. It's Olav.
You guys need to get back up here, now.
It sounded like a bad horror movie, and I immediately thought of encountering a fucking huge bear, but a bear wouldn't have made those prints. Why? I replied.
I saw something, I don't know what, but it's the same thing as Peter saw. You need to get back to base, it's huge.
Okay, scared as fuck I asked, where did you last see it?
It was just by the, quote, name of the lake, maybe 200 meters north.
Now as I said earlier, it's dark outside, but the snow and clear sky with moonlight kinda illuminates the forest. Me and Roy had obviously been walking towards that pool of water the whole time, and at this point, we were most likely less than half a k away from it. We started running, but through deep snow, with heavy gear on our shoulders it didn't go as fast as we wanted. We halted for a second, got some water from our now almost frozen camelbacks, and then it came, a fucking shriek like you wouldn't believe. It was the most non-human shriek I have ever heard. I can't even explain it with words. It was so loud and powerful, the snow from the trees surrounding us started to slip down on our heads. We turned our heads towards where the scream came from, and there it was, tall as the trees it stood amongst, a dark/pale creature with what looked like several long limbs to support its size. In utter shock we stood still staring toward what looked like a mythological demon. It was maybe 200-300 meters away from us, so it was hard to get a good look at it, but you definitely saw it was there. Also it was, as I said, tall, not particularly big in width but, tall as the medium-tall trees growing around this area. I'm certain it was around 8 to 9 meters tall. Fuck, run Roy, we need to fucking run. And everything went kinda black. I can't really remember anything from our run, only the sensation of blood in my mouth and the focus on every step I took while running. Making sure not to fucking fall over. After running for as long as we could we needed to stop yet again, weapons ready this time. No visual signs of the thing, but yet another shriek, just as terrible as the first one, then thumping, loud, ground-shaking thumping. You know the Jurassic Park movies? When the biggest dinosaurs walk, that kind of experience, it felt like the whole damn ground moved. Instead of waiting to get a visual on this fucker, we decided to start running again, but clearly exhausted our speed slowly but surely went from decent to plain walking. Constantly thinking of the utter and completely terrifying shit we just had seen, we threw our backpacks away, hoping this would make our retreat at least a bit more effective. It did. We came over the last little hill and could clearly see the tower now. Comm started making noises. Afraid the thing might pinpoint our location, I turned the volume down. Olav came onto the comm.
I have no fucking idea what that creature is, nothing like I've ever seen, but it's not far behind. It's lurking in the more overgrown areas just beside the trail you are on. I constantly find and lose it through the tower binoculars. You guys just need to get the hell back here.
Thump. 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 Thump thump thump. I imagine it started running, and from the sound towards us. We did the same, literally running for our fucking lives. The shrieks became louder, more angry behind us, as it continued to follow us. That's at least what I believe it did. I'm sure I can talk for Roy as well when I say it felt like we were about to die from exhaustion. We forced ourselves up the last 50 meters of trail before we reached the front door. Hands were shaking, trying to type in the code on the door lock as quickly as possible. Door opens, we both kinda jump in, making sure the door is as locked as can be. Take Olav and Peter's weapons with ammo, carry it all up into the tower room, and explain what we had seen much more up close to Peter and Olav. They are both pale as ghosts now. Roy can hardly speak. We write it all down as detailed as we can, and deliver it to the main station via mail. Rest of the night everyone is constantly on their toes, watching over the landscape, not saying a word to each other. This was also our last mission before ending our 1-year service to the Norwegian Army. We decided to reschedule our patrol plan, so that everyone walked during the short amount of daytime. The officers didn't believe us, and kinda mocked us, but was glad we didn't call in for support because of some animal. I'm 22 now, so this was 3 years ago. I no longer have any contact with Olav or Peter. I know Roy got PTSS and killed himself last year. This is the best I could find online representing the creature we saw pic related. Imagine it without that black cape, 3 times taller standing up.
No emergency radios in the tower. No backup generator in the freezing middle of nowhere. Going on foot out in the middle of the night to hike 30 minutes to check out something and not using a snowmobile to make the trip less than 10 minutes. Nice story, but don't expect us to believe it.
We have emergency radios, but I couldn't reach the guys downstairs with it. It's only connected to the main base and radios online on the same frequency. I think we had a backup generator in the shed outside of the base, but we never were taught how to use it as power surges never really happened. And that wasn't the first thing that came to mind when it happened to me. Well, as I stated, we were a op patrol, and didn't have the snowmobile nor 4-wheeler certificate. All we did was walk patrols, and checking out this was no unusual task. As patrols were done every day by foot, longer than 30 minutes.
PTSS and killing himself for seeing some shadows in the forest?
I would argue he probably got PTSS after the events, and couldn't really live on with the diagnosis. Not necessarily killing himself for seeing what we saw.
Nice story, man. You got any others just from that year of service? Not even X-related, just interesting stories. Meet any important people in the army? I used to be in the army cadets in my country, UK, skiing for high school kids to get involved in the army before they could actually join up. And we once had a guy that had received a Victoria Cross from Iraq or Afghanistan or WE come to our school to give a talk. Guy was originally from Barbados, gave his whole life story, what from moving to England, joining the army, and the fight where his car got hit by an RPG, penetrating his skull. Yet he still managed to motherfucking drive the goddamn thing out of the valley he was ambushed in. Guy woke up in hospital after a week with a metal plate now forming part of his skull. Told us the vision he had whilst he was under. We all sat absolutely rapt listening to this guy's every word for 2 hours straight. He had such a relaxed manner and talked so straight that his story just sucked you in. Here he is.
Sorry, have no other notable stories from my 6 months at the border unfortunately. Nice to hear some other bloke had a good story for you to listen to though, and I will check out the link you provided.
One American soldier posted about an event during a patrol where both he and his buddy had gone to check something out only to both walk around a huge tree and return. It was right across the street from their position. They thought nothing of it until asked about this the next day. They casually mentioned that they had searched all around the tree across the road and people started acting weird. They went back to show them where and there were their footprints in a circle from the night before, but no tree. I'm guessing OP's creature is a relative. I had a personal experience that is hardly worth mentioning, but that gives me certainty such creatures are not fiction.
Ugh, that give me the chills. I can only imagine walking around a thing like the one I saw without even knowing it, while it stares down at you.
Interesting story, OP, thanks. So did anyone else in the army ever told you other spooky stories that they encountered?
Just some late night spoopy observations of shit moving inside the Russian or Norwegian woods, but not the same as my story, no.
Why didn't you shoot it? You should have decent weapons, and I, of course, understand that if you see a big unearthly creature you become scared, but if it is larger than you, then running isn't an option regarding speed. Was there any idea to shoot it?
Shooting actually is a big deal when you in almost every case is trained not to shoot. And as I said, it was a lot of distance between me, Roy and the creature when we first spotted it. Why would we risk bringing it closer to us by provoking it? And we never really saw it through thick layers of wood while we heard it running after us screaming, no point in blasting bullets all around not seeing shit.